all of a sudden the doctor walks in and he has this absolute blank stare in his eyes. And I knew something was like 10 times worse than what I expected. So he goes over to my parents and he asked them, he said, "Can I speak to you two in private?" And immediately I stopped him. I said, "Whatever you're going to tell my parents, I'm right here. You're going to tell me right now." So he sits down, he grabs my hand, he looks at me and he says, "Matt, we have found an 11-centimeter tumor in your small intestine. We believe it is cancer, and we have to rush you to the main campus of the Cleveland Clinic immediately."
Cool. Awesome, Matt. Thank you so much for being here, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, of course, brother. Anytime. Super excited.
I'm excited to have you here too, man. I'm excited to have you, and not only you, but also for you to share your message with my audience, and hopefully you can use this for your audience as well, man. I'm excited to hear about a little bit more about your story.
Yeah, of course, dude. Excited to kind of share it. I want to really, it's not even just about my story. It's a lot about the messages that entail, the lessons and everything that, we go through in life, learning to deal with adversity and use it as a tool, as a lesson to not just better yourself, but better other people around you as well.
For those of you who are watching, Matt Ode is a motivational speaker, and he has a story of hope, of perseverance, of victory. And I love what you're doing on social media, Matt. And Matt is on a mission and he's going to talk a little bit more about it, but he's on a mission to help individuals transform their setbacks into their superpower. And I love that, Matt. So before we get started, tell us, who is Matt?
Yeah, so a little bit about myself. I'm 28 years old. I am from Cleveland, Ohio. Some of the things I love to do, I love lifting. I love working out. I've been a personal trainer for over 8 years. Always, now I've been really intrigued with the mind, with the body, and giving back to other people. For me, what I found in true happiness in life is really being able to use what I learn through my setbacks, through my challenges, to help other people. So, just a little bit about myself. I've always grown up in Ohio, and it's definitely been a journey these past couple of years, but I'm extremely excited to share it. And, I really hope that this can help some people, who might be going through tough times, especially during this time, because, with COVID and everything going on in 2020, it's just been a whirlwind for sure.
So Matt, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit about what are you currently doing now?
Yeah. So, I am, aside from my job, which is a personal trainer and wellness director, I'm also a keynote motivational speaker, and I'm a coach for what I call survivors. And it doesn't mean just cancer survivors. It's people who survive difficult moments in their life. It could be a mental challenge. It could be a physical challenge, something that you have, dealt with in your life that you've overcame. And now you feel like you have a second chance in life. You feel like you have a greater purpose, but you just don't know really like how to take that first step. What's that next direction? You don't have that clarity. And I felt the exact same way when I was finally out of cancer, when I finally healed myself. And through a lot of deep work, through my mind, through my body, through figuring out what my purpose was, I was able to help and impact other people. So I'm also a coach as well. And it's been a very fulfilling and gratifying journey.
So tell us a little bit, Matt, about those difficult moments, because, right, we are experiencing difficult moments as a world right here in our country, but also as individuals. Some people are experiencing difficult moments in their lives, So I know that you have a powerful story that you share when you do your motivational teachings and in your coaching. So tell us your story. I mean, tell us the reason why you decided to get into the space of motivational speaker and empowering people through their difficult moments. What was your difficult?
Yeah. So, I had a lot of them. Cool. So, yeah, I'm going to start with my story, and then you can kind of cut me off whenever you want. And I think this is going to be a really good lead up to why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's going to be a little bit long because I'm sharing my whole story here, but stop me at any moment and ask any questions that you have too. Sure. So, I always start my story off at a really important date, and it's March 17th of 2016. So I was 24 years old at the time, personal trainer still, very healthy. I'm working out 6-7 days a week. I'm eating the right foods, taking care of my body. And that day, it was St. Patrick's Day, and I'm out at the bars with my friend, just having a good time. And I end up meeting this girl, and I get to know her, and her name is Lauren. And I get her phone number. We start talking, and within a few months, we end up dating. And as we're dating, it's now summer. We're doing all these fun activities, kayaking, hiking, all these things. And then all of a sudden, I started noticing these minor back pains. And at 24, you just shrug things off very easily. You're 20. You're in your 20s. You think you're invincible. So I was like, it's probably nothing. Well, as weeks go by, as months go by, my back pain just keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and it gets to the point where I can barely even stand. I can barely even walk, and still being stubborn. The kind of turning point in my thing of hey, I have to go to the hospital was one night I was over Lauren's house, and I ended up puking up blood. And immediately I couldn't even stand for more than 2 seconds because I was just so dizzy and everything. So they rushed me to the emergency room. They do a blood test on me, and they found out that I had lost 2/3 of the blood circulating in my body, which is equivalent to being shot with a gun. So immediately they gave me 6 bags of blood and put me into an emergency surgery because they thought it was an ulcer that was causing the bleeding. So the next day I'm in the recovery room. It's just me and my parents at the time. I'm thinking it's over. I'm like, okay, all this stuff's over. I can go home now. We're all good. And all of a sudden the doctor walks in, and he has this absolute blank stare in his eyes. And I knew something was 10 times worse than what I expected. So he goes over to my parents, and he asked them, he said, "Can I speak to you two in private?" And immediately I stopped him. I said, "Whatever you're going to tell my parents, I'm right here. You're going to tell me right now." So he sits down, he grabs my hand, he looks at me, and he says, "Matt, we have found an 11-centimeter tumor in your small intestine. We believe it is cancer, and we have to rush you to the main campus of the Cleveland Clinic immediately." And the Cleveland Clinic is one of the top hospitals in the entire world. And I just remember looking over at my parents, absolutely crying. And, for me, I wasn't thinking about death. I wasn't thinking about, what could happen. I was thinking about how can I be strong for them? How can I be strong for Lauren? How can I be strong for my family, my friends, and everyone who's going to hear this message, very soon? And, it just kind of took a 180. And this is a good lesson for everybody. In life, we are all going to get unexpected news. We are all going to get something in our life that is just we didn't expect it. It doesn't seem fair. It's, why is this, thing happening? And you can look at it 2 different ways. You can say, why is this happening to me? Or you can say, how is this happening for me? I'm going to say it one more time. If you start saying, why is this happening to me? For me, my example, cancer, I start making excuses. I start blaming other people. I start blaming the universe or whatever I believe in. And it gets me absolutely nowhere. But if I change my perspective and I say, how is this happening for me? It allows me to look at it as a lesson. It allows to look at it as a tool to better myself and the other people around me. And that's what I want to instill into people is when you go through challenges in life, ask yourself, how is this a lesson? Yes, is it unfair? Of course. Yes, why is this happening? But still, how can I use it to better myself and the people around me? And I said, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. I don't know how. I don't know what the next step's going to be. But anything that comes my way moving forward, I'm just going to use it as a lesson and a tool to push myself forward. So yeah,
real quick. So at that moment when you received the news, I mean, I can't even imagine, right? Receiving that type of news, cancer, did you immediately thought death? Did you immediately thought it's, I'm 24 and my life is done?
Yeah.
What were your initial thoughts?
Yeah, my initial thought was just, how am I going to be strong for them? Because I don't know why I was in such a shock mode, I think. That didn't come across. I've always had maybe it was my faith, and I'll get into that in a second. Maybe it was for me, God, but I don't push faith on anybody. I'm going to put that right there. I don't push faith on anybody. But for me, it was God probably saying I am not going to put these negative beliefs in your head because they are going to get you nowhere, kind of thing. And immediately I was just trying to be strong for other people. That's all I was doing at that time. How am I going to first be strong for parents right now because they're obviously crying and trying to figure this news just like me? And then how am I going to relay this message to Lauren when I see her, who's only, by the way, been dating me for 2 months, which that was the most nerve-wracking part was, is she going to stay with me or is she going to break up with me? Because to put that burden on her is anybody who's been only dating you for 2 months to say you have cancer, I don't blame them. I wouldn't, it wouldn't cross my mind if they, kind of left. And, I get to the Cleveland Clinic. they do a bunch of tests on me, and they found out that I had stage 3C testicular cancer, which is the highest stage of testicular cancer besides stage 4, which means it went to your brain. The cancer went everywhere in my body pretty much except for my brain. So, I'm shedding the news to everybody, and then Lauren comes in the room. Friends and family had already been flooding in, and finally Lauren arrives, and I'm still like, at the time I was just emotionless. I wasn't crying or anything. And then she comes in, and like, I just break down. She breaks down, and I knew she was going to be my rock throughout this whole situation. And I'm telling you right now, like, whenever you're going through a difficult time in life, you cannot fight these battles alone. You need to realize that there are people there for you, and you cannot shy away from that. You have to use the people in your life that are going to be there to help guide you and support you along your journey. And she was going to be one of them.
So Matt, what do you say to the person right now who's listening and who is totally discouraged, who's going through a hard time in their lives, and they have unexpected news? Maybe it's not cancer, but it's something else. Maybe they lost their job, or, maybe some family member passed away. Like, what would you say to that person who feels totally alone, and yet they don't have the person, the Lauren in their lives? What would you say to them?
Yeah, absolutely. So my best thing that I would say is, first off, if it's a financial situation, maybe it's a relationship. So you just broke up with that person. Maybe it is your health. I don't know what it is, but I promise you, if you express and you're willing to open up to, it doesn't have to be social media, but going to groups or finding somebody, there is somebody in your life. I guarantee it. I don't know who it is, but there's somebody in your life that is there for you. It doesn't have to be my girlfriend, Lauren, but there is a family member or a friend out there that if you really need them, they're going to be there for you. I promise you. So what I would say is, first, realize that this isn't the end of the world. This is just another setback to get you to a greater destination in your life. So first, you need to figure out, okay, what's my next step? Where do I need to go next? I'm not going to try and figure out how to finish and get to the end of this destination yet. I'm going to figure out what I need to do today to better myself. Who do I need to reach out to? What do I need to do? There are people out there that just want to listen. If you don't have any friends or family, find groups. Go to therapy groups. Go to ask people. Share yourself on social media. Just open up. That's what guys, especially guys, are afraid to do, is open up and be vulnerable, because our whole lives, we were taught by our previous generations that we need to be these tough guys that can't express our feelings, that can't express what we've gone through in our lives. And it's given us this stress, anxiety, depression, and so many negative thoughts in our life, because guess what? We feel like we need to just be this strong person that holds everything in, when really we need to be just like everyone else and open up. Good. Man, and that's what I found in my life, is open up, be vulnerable, because that's how people relate to you.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you say, look for that next step. As a former pastor, when I had my church, we were, it's always, what is that next step? Even now as a leadership coach as well, you always want to point people to that next step, right? Don't look at the mountain, look at what steps do I need to take in order to climb this mountain. So go ahead, continue. What happened when, so you had Lauren, you said faith played a part in your...
That's the part. I'll get to faith here in a little bit. It's going to be a huge part in my journey. But right after that, I was immediately put onto chemotherapy. And since I was so young at the time, they wanted to put me on the most intense chemo as I could, because remember, I had an 11-centimeter tumor in my small intestine. I have cancer all over my body. So I need to get rid of the cancer. They need to shrink the tumor. So immediately I'm put right onto intense chemotherapy for 3 months. And, I go through all the symptoms. I mean, I lost my hair. I was extremely fatigued. I couldn't get out of the bed. But every single day, Lauren was over with my parents. My parents were taking care of me, but Lauren would come over, spend time with me. Probably 4 of the 7 days of the week, she would just sleep over, take care. When I needed to be pushed, she would push me. When I needed to rest, she would just stay there and hang out with me. And same with my parents. And friends would come in. I would have amazing friends who would just send me cards and letters and all these things. And I'm telling you, that's just what kind of kept me going and going and going. And then all of a sudden I hit this like mental roadblock, because in the middle of my chemotherapy, my 3-year-old puppy, who was actually diagnosed with cancer before me, ended up passing away. And this was so difficult because I took him to all his chemotherapy sessions before even I was diagnosed with cancer. And then I get diagnosed, and we're fighting this battle together. And he's like my best friend. He would sleep with me. He would do all these things. And to lose him, it was like losing a best friend. And I know people who've lost their dogs was really difficult. And for me, the fact that I was in the dead smack middle of chemotherapy and I was so weak already, it broke me down. And I started going into those excuse modes. Why is this happening to me? God, why are you doing this right now? And for probably 3 to 5 days, I didn't even want to go to my chemo. I didn't want to do anything. And eventually, one day I got up off my bed and I was just like praying. And I said, God, is this what Duke? Is this what my family? Is this what anybody would want me to do, is just give up on myself? And I said, absolutely not. So I got myself up and I just started doing something little every day. Maybe it was walking a little bit. Maybe it was eating something. Maybe, I don't know what it was, but it was something that allowed me to just be a better version of myself that day. And it allowed me to stay focused and present. And eventually I overcame chemotherapy. And, that was like a very big hurdle for me at the time. And of course, I thought it was near the end, but this was just the beginning of my journey. But, I finally finished chemo. And a really cool story is my dad says, you know what, Matt, we're going to host an event today, or not today, sorry, in about a week or two. And at that time, it was actually November now. So I was diagnosed in August. It's now November, and it's close to Thanksgiving. So every Thanksgiving, Cleveland, Ohio hosts what's called a turkey trot. A lot of cities do this. It's a 5 and 10K race where thousands of people go to these cities and they just run 5 and 10K races. So my dad said, we're going to host this event on Thanksgiving morning downtown and see how many people show up. And we had no idea how many people would show up. I mean, it was 32 degrees that day. It was freezing. It was like 7 in the morning. And we ended up having over 400 people show up to that event. We gave them all T-shirts. We ended up calling the event Mustaches for Matt. And here's why. So I was going through chemo. Yeah. So when I was going through chemo, I mean, as you can tell, I have like red hair kind of. It's hard to tell, but it's red hair. And I lost all my hair, everything, except I had a dirty mustache, a real dirty mustache. And I said, you know what? I ain't shaving this thing off because this is the only hair I got left in my body. So, all my guy friends, they weren't going to make fun of me. So they said, we're going to grow mustaches with you as well. So all of my guy friends, all of the dads, they all grew mustaches. And when we got to the event, they all had mustaches on. We gave fake mustaches to the girls. And that's why we ended up naming it Mustaches for Matt. Wow. And yeah, it was so powerful. And that's just another, great example of support. I probably didn't even know 200 of those people. Remember how we were just talking about, what if you don't know that person? I'm telling you, the more that you're willing to open up, you will just get people there to support you, to pray for you. I had hundreds of people just there to pray for me. And then I had thousands of people, not even just the country, but around the world praying for me. And my gosh, like it was absolutely unreal to just see and give me that courage and perspective and gratitude towards life. So so that was kind of the first part of my journey. So after that, I ended up going to my oncologist a couple of weeks later. It's now December, and he sits down with me and he says, Matt, we have some good news and we have some bad news. Good news, your tumor has shrunk from 11 centimeters to 3 centimeters. Like, awesome, that's great news. Bad news, your tumor is wrapped around what's called your inferior vena cava. Now, we all have one. It's basically a central vein that goes from the bottom of your upper body to your heart. It's basically a vein that, allows blood to flow to your body and, or flow to your heart. They said we're gonna have to do a 10 to 12 hour surgery to remove this vein. We're gonna have to have 3 to 4 surgeons involved, and we don't know the complications. Wow. So that was a long 3 weeks that I had to wait for my surgery, but I get there. Eventually, going into the surgery, I was about 140 pounds. So I lost about 40 to 45 pounds during chemo. Wow. And going into the surgery, it ended up being a 10 to 12 hour surgery. And then coming out of the surgery, I was close to 200 pounds from swelling. So what they ended up doing was they had to cut my skin, my stomach open from my left hip to my right. And they had to remove that vein. And when they did so, my body went into this survival mode. And all this swelling occurred. I ended up waking up like 2 to 3 days later, and I couldn't move. couldn't move at all. And I was like, doctor, like, is there something wrong? Like, is something wrong here? And he said, well, this isn't supposed to happen, but the draining should eventually come out, because they had like a drainage tube in my stomach.
Mm.
So about a week goes by, I start to get up, I'm able to move a little bit. I get out of the hospital, and about 4 to 5 days out of the hospital, maybe closer to a week, all of a sudden the draining just stops, just like that, just stops. And within like an hour, I'm in so much pain. I have to get rushed back to the emergency room, where they end up having to drain 7 liters of fluid out of my stomach, causing me to go into complete kidney and liver failure. I had a cone drilled inside of my head because of potential brain swelling. I had a catheter in my chest and in my neck because I thought I was going to be on dialysis the rest of my life. And I ended up falling into a 2-week non-induced coma.
Wow.
So I want to share a huge testament of faith. This, like you were asking about faith, is where my faith really came into play. My mom is like the epitome of faith. She didn't just ask people to pray for me. She asked people to pray for me every single day for the specific thing that I was going through. So if I was going through like a heart problem that day, she'd ask about the heart problem. If I was going through some kidney issues, she'd ask for the kidney. If I was in that coma, she'd ask that I would get out. Like, it was very specific. And she literally got together and had people go. We had 3 prayer services where hundreds of people would go to these churches and just pray for me. Wow. And on the very last day of the 3rd prayer service, in the middle of it was the day that I woke up. They were praying for me, and my mom called and she said that I had woken up. And that right there was God basically saying, Matt, this is not the end of your journey. This is only the beginning. And, it wasn't like I could get out of the bed. It wasn't like I could do anything. All it was me opening my eyes and wiggling my fingers. That was it. That was my extent at the time. But I knew God still had a path for me. I couldn't even think. Like, I was in so much trauma that I didn't know what was going on. So I had no idea. I don't remember it, but my parents do. So a week goes by. I also have a breathing tube in my mouth, so I couldn't talk. They eventually take the breathing tube out. I'm starting to get a little bit of my conscience back, but I can't really say sentences or anything. I can just like fixate on things. My mind's still not there, but I am making some progress. So they said, you know what, Matt, we're going to take one of the catheters out of your neck because we just need this one for right now. You're making some progress. And as they go to do that, I end up having an air rhythm heartbeat. I end up going to cardiac arrest, and they have to do 8 minutes of CPR on me. Ooh. And I end up falling back into another 1-week coma. At this point, I'm in the ICU for over 3 weeks, and I end up waking up, and I realize that I have to freaking learn to live my entire life over again. So from sitting in my bed to from laying in my bed to sitting took almost a week. From sitting to standing took almost a week. And from standing, taking my very first steps, it was almost a 3-week process just to get me from laying in my bed to taking my first steps. And it wasn't me on my own. It was 3 to 4 nurses every single day getting me in there to help me with that. And at that time, I'm already 4 surgeries in. So it took an additional, after that original surgery, it took 3 surgeries to remove all the fluid from me. So I'm finally walking, and I just get this dizzy feeling all the time. I feel like something's just wrong. Something isn't right. It just doesn't feel right. But the nurses and the doctors think otherwise. They're like, he's probably fine. He just has a little dizzy because of all the stuff he's gone through. So eventually, I get out of the ICU room, and it's been about probably, it's been a month at least, and maybe even over a month now at this point. I get out of the ICU room, I'm into my recovery room, and next thing I know, 3 days into my recovery room, they want to bring me into this physical therapy stage. They're like, Matt, you're making so much progress. But for me, I knew something was just still not right. But they said, you know what, we're still gonna just push you on, and we think that this is gonna be a good idea. So as they're wheeling me in my bed, it's not in a wheelchair, as they're wheeling me in my bed, because I can't walk, I can't like even sit really. As they're wheeling me, I look down at my stitches, and my stitches pop open, and my spleen is sticking out of my stomach. I end up getting rushed into a 5th major surgery where they end up having to do what's called an open wound surgery on me. So they couldn't close my skin back up in this surgery because they've already done so many previous surgeries on me. So I had to leave a football-sized wound on my stomach where all that they could hold, like all my intestines, everything together, was just through a mesh. So I'm sure you can guess where I ended up back in. And I ended up back in the ICU again. And, wow. At this time, I had officially hit rock bottom. So this time I'm waking up and I'm fully conscious of where I'm at. But this is the scary part. When I was, put under with anesthesia, as I was kind of coming out of the anesthesia, I guess I was moving a ton, my hands, my legs. So they had to strap me down into my bed, and they had to put a breathing tube in me because I couldn't breathe on my own at that time. And I ended up waking up. I have a breathing tube in my mouth. I have my hands and my feet strapped to the bed, and all I could do is pray. Talk about faith here. This is where me and God pretty much he changed my life. This is where he changed the direction of my life. Wow. I remember asking him, I said, God, I'm in rock bottom at this point. I'm in the lowest part of my life, and I have two options here. I can give up on myself now. I've gone through this battle. I've been fighting like hell, and I can just give up now, be done. You can take me. Or, like you said, this is just the beginning. This isn't the end. What's that next step I need to do? And I trust in you, God. I believe in you, God. So 2 days later, they take the breathing tube out. They unstrap me, and I walk further, my very first time, than I had ever done previous to the ICU room, ever than I did to the recovery rooms. And within 3 to 4 days, I was out of the ICU room. Wow. Into my final stages of physical therapy. And, in the physical therapy, I basically had to learn to do everything we take for granted again. And, sitting on a toilet, getting up off of a bed, learning to, walk more than just 2 or 3 feet, but walking 50 yards, all these things. And, eventually the time came. It was, after 53 days in the hospital, over 40 days in the ICU room, I was finally released. And the day was March 17th of 2017, the day that I had met Lauren exactly 1 year ago, St. Patrick's Day. Yep. And I have no question that was God saying, Matt, I am putting an angel into your life to be there for you. She was in that hospital. Let me tell you this real quick. She was in that hospital every single day. She slept every single day in the hospital, all 53 days. She never went out with her friends, never did anything. All she did was she'd wake up at 6 a.m. She wasn't even allowed to come in until 7, but she'd wake up, come in, somehow get into the ICU room to see me, have to go to work, come back, stay with me. And remember, I'm in a coma. I'm in all these things. I can't talk for probably 40 of the 53 days. So she would just sit there. She would do coloring and just be there for me. Same with my parents. My parents never even left. They never even left to go to work or anything. And then I had family and friend flooding in. But just for her example, she was there every single day for me. And that was just like the fact that we hadn't even been dating for a year yet, to show that her, just her guidance and her support and her love was just like, something that I can't explain. And when I can't explain things in life, I know it's somebody higher up. And for me, it's God bringing those people or circumstances or experiences into my life. And that's exactly how it was, is she was just brought into my life for a reason. Wow. So yeah, man. Wow. And I don't know if you have any questions or not before.
No, that's powerful. That's powerful. I do have a few more questions. I know we have like 15 minutes left, but yeah, man, that is powerful. Talk about a roller coaster, right? So I want you to speak right now to the leaders listening and watching. And I want you to speak to them because maybe in their own leadership journey, maybe they're going through roller coasters, right? Maybe they're not going through cancer or something as dramatic as that. I mean, that's powerful. But what would you say to the leaders watching who are literally going through roller coasters? I mean, one thing after another. What would you say to them as they're watching this right now?
Yeah. You are going to have ups and downs in your life. You are 100% going to have those setbacks, but remember, the greatest adversity gives you the greatest opportunity in life, gives you the greatest potential to find your dreams. If you look at anybody who's been successful in life, the greatest people, The Rock, Oprah, at different presidents, all these people, in order to get to their destination in life, they had to go through dark and very difficult moments, whether it's financially, whether it's health, whether it's a relationship, whether it's whatever it is in their life. They had to go through it. And that right there is what people actually gravitate towards. People know about Michael Jordan getting cut from his basketball team. People know about The Rock having $7 in his bank account. People know about Oprah. She didn't just start this magical TV show. She was actually told, I believe, by like radio stations that she wasn't good enough, that her, message won't ever be powerful enough. All these people getting rejected, getting these setbacks. And they said, you know what? How do I learn from this? How do I be a better version of myself? How do I get to that next destination? And they did it by going little brick every single day to better themselves. So that's kind of my explanation of a roller coaster journey. You're going to have those highs, you're going to have those lows, but also enjoy those lows and enjoy those highs, because guess what, when you get to that destination and you didn't actually enjoy that journey, you're going to be just as miserable when you get to that destination as you were throughout that whole journey. Trust me, there are plenty of people out there with so much money. I don't call it wealth, but because wealth is not just money, right, but with so much money that have killed themselves, or that have been falling in depression, that are miserable because they didn't take the steps to enjoy the journey, and all they were focusing on was one thing that they thought was going to create happiness in their life, because that's exactly what we're all trying to chase. And it wasn't that. It wasn't the money. It was, and I'm not saying to don't go try and get a lot of money, because heck yeah, we all should try and get a lot of money, but we should do it in the right reasons. And that is helping other people and giving back to the people who need us.
Matt, what would you say is your big dream right now?
My biggest dream is I want to impact 1 million families whose young adults have been impacted by cancer. And I want to do that financially for them. So what I want to do is be able to go to different families and help them financially through their situations when their children or their young adults have been affected by cancer, whether it's by providing them homes, providing them careers, but also paying for their bills. Medical bills is such a stressful and, a painful thing that you have to go through, and you're already going through this other painful thing in life. So I want to eliminate that factor for them and allow them to, focus on what really matters. And that is their children, that is their son, and that is getting them healthy and getting them to, have that great life and allow them to do what they want. So that's one of my objectives. And my other objective is to help these people who've gone through those tragic times in life. Once again, it doesn't have to be cancer, but who've gone through a tragic time in life, and you came out of that situation, but you just don't know where to go. I said this in the beginning, we all have gone through a difficult situation. When we have some clarity in our life of like, wow, maybe my 9-to-5 job isn't everything that, I need to do for the rest of my life. Maybe I can do something greater with my life. Or maybe I love my 9-to-5 job, but I need to figure out a way to be better in that job. So I want to help you find that clarity, find that purpose to go out and help other people and to really, take care of the people you love as well.
And if you have one final thought on what would be your message to the world right now?
Yeah, my message to the world is you are enough. I want you to know that. So I want you to think through this real quick. You are enough means that whatever you're going through, whatever you feel like you have to give to the world, you can do. But you have to be willing to get out of your own limiting beliefs to get there. You own your value and realize that no matter what you go through in life, there are people who need to hear your message. There are people who need to hear your story. And don't ever think that you're not good enough to share. Don't think that you need to go through some crazy story like me to impact the world, because you don't. All you need to do is have a vision and a dream, and never give up on yourself, and realize that you are good enough. You are worthy enough to pursue that dream. You are worthy enough to help millions and, billions of people in this world. Like Jeff Bezos, he probably never thought he was going to help billions of people, but guess what? Maybe he did. I don't know, but he had this massive dream. But at first, it started off with books, and now look where he's at. He helps billions of people. He impacts billions of people. Or it doesn't have to be Jeff Bezos, but it could be anybody. I'm just trying to talk entrepreneurish, but there's so many people out there.
Yeah. Wow. That's powerful, man. I appreciate you, sharing your story, man. And I know it's going to be encouraging for the people watching. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Matt. So where can people follow you? Where can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. And really quickly, so I didn't exactly get to end my story. If you have a minute or two, I'd love to just share the last little recap. Coming out of the hospital, because I kind of left us off of, hey, I was out of the hospital. Coming out of that hospital, I was 110 pounds. So I had a lot of recovery to do. So, from my mind to my body, those were the first two things I had to take control of. And, once I was able to take control of my mind, it realized that, I went through all of these difficult times in my life, but I can overcome this. I can use this to be a better version of myself. It allowed me to do the physical things I need to, like eat better again, do all the things like as a personal trainer, work out. When I said work out, I was just walking what I could or lifting 5-pound dumbbells. So that's what I started with 5-pound dumbbell guys. So if you're on a health journey and you feel like, oh, I just don't know where to start. That's all I can tell you. Just start with something. It could be walking. It could be lifting a 5-pound dumbbell, but you need to start somewhere. And I just did little things every single day. And eventually, I gained the weight back, I gained my mind back, and that's what allows me to now become a keynote motivational speaker. I found my purpose in life, I found my passion in life, and not only a keynote speaker, but a coach and somebody that God has this path for me that I'm just enjoying every single day. So that's just kind of the quick version of the end of my story. But if you want to follow me, you can follow me on so many different platforms. I'll name 3 of them though. So you can follow me on Instagram at Matty, Matty _Ode, Ode. You can follow me on Facebook at just Matt Ode, Mattode. And then lastly, you can follow me on YouTube, which is also Matt Ode. And me and my girlfriend, Lauren, who, she's still with me and been absolutely incredible throughout this journey. We started a channel called Dating After Diagnosis, which is basically me and her go through our own story of, not just me going through cancer, but, her mental side of it too, and hearing what it's like to be on the other side of going through a tragic event. And we don't just talk about that. We also talk, we're getting into fun topics of now what we do as a couple and stuff like that. So those are the 3 main platforms you can follow me. I'm also on LinkedIn at Matt Ode too, but, would love to connect with anybody. And if you're looking for a speaker or you're looking for, a coach, I'm always happy to help out.
Awesome. Matt, let me ask you this real quick. I don't mean to blow your spot, but so when are you proposing to Lauren?
You're the 1,000th person that's asked me this. There is no timeline yet. We've looked at rings though. We have looked at rings, and it'll happen soon. Especially with COVID, it kind of like took a damper on a lot of things. We were actually looking at them like before all this happened, and then COVID happened, and we couldn't even go to ring shops. All this, it's just what though, like. I'm not in a rush. I'm learning to live every day, being present and enjoying myself. I'm in my 20s still. I'm 28 years old. I don't feel the pressure. I think think of it this way. The first 2 years of our lives, we never got to be boyfriend and girlfriend. We did for like a month or 2. And then it was like cancer hit. And then it was like, okay, after cancer, all this other stuff hit. And then after that, I had to recover. So it's really been like figuring out, we grew stronger together, but we never got to do the things like going on dates and all these fun activities. So now we're getting to do that again. And I think we're just enjoying the process. We're just enjoying the journey.
That's awesome. Well, Matt, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Of course, dude. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. I always